Friday night. Shinzo Abe, the former Japanese Prime Minister, assassinated. We'll have plenty on that big story. Also, face-off over Tiranga. Should it be made of khadi or polyester? Ahead of the 75th anniversary celebrations, a political battle has broken out. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. Massive tragedy at the Amarnath Yatra. 10 people reported dead after a cloudburst triggers flash floods. Several tents washed away. Few people reported missing even now. Heavy rains across southern and western parts of India caused mayhem in Karnataka's Udupi. Villages inundated. Rescue operations underway for the displaced. Heavy rains also wreak havoc in Gujarat. A dam is breached in Kutch. 67-year-old former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe shot dead after being shot twice in the chest. Attacker local of Nara city arrested. He admits he aimed to kill Abe. Prime Minister Modi condoles death of dear friend Shinzo Abe, says shocked and saddened beyond words, announces one-day national mourning. Sensational details emerge from NIA's FIR copying the Amravati murder case. NIA claims accused conspired to terrorize a certain section of people. Political war over the production of the Indian flag ahead of Independence Day. Congress attacks the centre's decision to amend the flag code to allow flags to be produced in polyester. Says BJP is allowing mass import of flags from China. Enforcement Directorate imposes a penalty of rupees 51.72 crores on Amnesty India and rupees 10 crore on its former CEO Akar Patel for allegedly violating FEMA violations. Patel has been a fierce Modi critic. Battle for real Shiv Sena rages on after the battle over the bow and arrow symbol. Team Uddhav moves the Supreme Court against Shinde's appointment as Chief Minister. Shinde and Fadnavis are in Delhi for a cabinet expansion. And suspense continues over who will be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Will Rishi Sunak take over the reins from Boris Johnson? Or will it be Mr. Wallace, the Defence Secretary? But the story that's breaking tonight, the big story, a big tragedy has struck the Amarnath Yatra in Jammu and Kashmir. At least 5 people are reported dead after a cloudburst triggered flash floods at the base camp. Several tents have been washed away. A few people are reported missing. NDRF ITBP teams have been deployed for rescue operations, and the Amarnath Yatra has been temporarily suspended. So the big story at the moment is coming from the Amarnath Yatra, where, as I said, a massive cloudburst has led to a tragedy. 5 people dead. Many more are missing at the moment. Tents have been washed away in the flash floods that have taken place. So those are the visuals coming in. As I said, it's been a day of heavy rains in different parts of the country. The Amarnath Yatra temporarily suspended. We are told the Prime Minister has just spoken to the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha and inquired about the state of the rescue operations that are taking place. Many of these took place in the higher reaches of the Amarnath Yatra, and that is where the cloudburst has taken place. At least 5 people are confirmed dead, and the numbers could rise. We're told half a dozen people are reportedly missing. The yatra taking place, annual yatra that was taking place, the tents along the river being washed away. So that's the big news that's coming in at the moment from the Amarnath Yatra. Cloudburst in the lower holy cave of the yatra, resulting in 5 people dead. Rain has stopped. That's the good news. But as you can see from those visuals, it was earlier in the day a fury of rain caused by that cloudburst that has resulted in several tents being washed away in the area. Massive cloudburst taking place at Amarnath during the Amarnath Yatra, and rescue operations, both the NDRF and the ITBP are on it. We've spoken earlier to the ITBP, and we'll bring you that phone conversation that we had with the ITBP in a moment, which will give us the latest update on what's been happening on the ground. As I said, tents washed away in the flash floods that have taken place along the Amarnath Yatra. This is, of course, a yatra that takes place annually, and the water continuing to gush, as you can see. Joining me now is Vivek Pandey, the ITBP PRO, joins me on that story. Mr. Pandey, can you tell us what is the situation right now?
Yeah, right now we are doing the rescue operations. 5 dead bodies were recovered in the half an hour ago. Numbers, the toll may rise, and what we are seeing that more people have been taken out of from the river. Though we have already evacuated most of the people, we hope that the casualties are lesser in numbers. If it would have happened in the midst of night, then the casualties must have been higher. What we are seeing is that most of the people have been evacuated, but unfortunately there may be some tentages where people may not be able to come out. Most of the people who were there in the banks of the river, they went to the safer places. Security forces, all the forces in coordination with the state administration have alarmed the people. Warning has been given to the people through loudspeakers, whistles, and physically also going to them just to vacate the area. So right now, 5 dead bodies have been recovered, but more casualties are feared.
You mentioned 5 dead bodies have been recovered, but you also mentioned that the toll could rise. How many people, Mr. Pandey, are missing at the moment?
The administration and the security forces are on the job. We are also looking for our teams who are deployed there. We are counting the numbers. Maybe in an hour or so, we will be able to actually see that how many people are actually missing. But in terms of the people, because there have been pilgrims, there have been certain other elements like the member of the civil societies doing some swam seva or something. There have been people from the security forces. There have been people, pilgrims, guides, many helping elements like the local people. So we have to actually see that whom those people are. So very soon the administration is going to release a number, that is a helpline number. In that people may ask for the missing or something like that. But right now there have been fears that more people may be missing.
You know, as I said, you're saying more people could be dead, and that's tragic to hear. Rescue efforts, as you said, still on. What are the main challenges your team is facing, Mr. Pandey, at the moment?
Yeah, rescue operations are very much challenging because rain has stopped, but in between we can see that rain is coming and going, coming and going. Darkness is the biggest challenge for us. We have dragon lights, we have search lights also, but if water doesn't recede, then the rescue operations in the river body will be very, very difficult. So those are the challenges. We are just keeping our fingers crossed. ITBP with other agencies like the CRPF, the NDRF, the SDRF, we all are on our toes. Continuously our men are doing the rescue work, seeing for the people, looking after to see that we can make them pitch tents for them and make them comfortable, providing food and shelter, vis-a-vis medicines if required. But the rescue operations are on, and what I am told that it may go for the entire night. We will be looking for the missing men.
Vivek Pandey, they're joining us on the very latest. I appreciate your joining us. Let me go to Sunil G. Bhatt, who's joining me live from Jammu. Sunil, it appears that the weather conditions have improved. Are the rescue operations continuing, given the kind of hostile, difficult conditions in which they are taking place? We heard about the difficulties that Mr. Pandey pointed out. Is the weather improved? What are you picking up?
Well, Rajdeep, rescue operation is on. Teams from the NDRF, SDRF, as well as from the Indian Army and ITBP are there. They are carrying out the rescue operation. But there are many challenges as far as this entire rescue operation is concerned. It's already dark now, but still the authorities are on their job. Rescue teams are on their job. And the authorities have shown promptness and swiftness in this entire matter. And that is why we can see that different agencies are working in close coordination. But this is an Herculean task for the rescue teams to carry out this operation, given the fact that the weather is inclement and there were flash floods. Many tents were washed away. And as per the latest information, 12 people are dead and 30 to 40 people are still missing. So
12 people are dead. You're saying 12 people are dead, 30 to 40 people are missing. So the toll could be much higher in this cloudburst. Sunilji Bhatt joining me there from Jammu with the very latest. Now, all of this is coming on a day where heavy rains continue to wreak havoc in different parts of the country. Mumbai had a red alert but has been relatively spared. But when you look across the country from Kutch to Udupi, to Lonavala, to Ramnagar in Karnataka. Both Karnataka, Gujarat, Maharashtra, the western coast of the country has been battered by rains in this last week, waterlogging in several areas. Karnataka particularly badly affected, heavy rains causing mayhem there in Udupi, Anganwadi schools, colleges being shut in the district following a rain red alert. We also, of course, have pointed out that Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand are the other two states in the hilly regions that have witnessed very heavy rain in the next 24 hours. NDRF teams being deployed now across the flood-affected areas. Now, one of the areas which has been badly affected is Gujarat and the Narmada waters that reached the last village in Kutch. But the villagers' joy has not lasted long because the very next day the canal walls have collapsed because of the rains. Water has entered nearby villages and damaged the crops. Tonight's ground report, Get Real India, comes to you from Gujarat.
A dream that came true. Hundreds lined up, cheered and recorded the historic moment. As Narmada waters reached Modkuba, the last village of the Kutch district on Wednesday. The canal aims to provide water to 1.12 lakh hectares of land and boost irrigation. But in less than 24 hours, the hope of thousands of villagers was dashed. A part of the canal collapsed. Water entered villages and damaged crops.
2 साल के बाद देर से आया लेकिन कुछ आया, वो उम्मीद भी थी, लेकिन वो उम्मीद के ऊपर पानी फिर रहा है। अगर ये पूरा फ्लो से, अभी तो टेस्टिंग है, पूरा फ्लो से पानी आएगा तब ये कैनाल खड़ी रहने वाली नहीं है, क्योंकि उसका पाँव ही नहीं है। पाँव होएगा तो खड़ी रहेगी, पाँव नीचे से नहीं है। आप देख रहा है नीचे से गाबड़ा ऐसा गिर रहा है, तो कहाँ से खड़ी रहेगी? वो इसमें पूरा भ्रष्टाचार।
इस कैनाल का काम आप देखो कितना भ्रष्टाचार हुआ है, करोड़ों रुपयों का भ्रष्टाचार सत्ता में बैठे लोगों ने किया है। अभी कल आनंद उत्साह था और आज देखो तो किसानों के खेत बहते जा रहे हैं।
Narmada Canal is a main source of water for Kutch. People in the region have been facing water shortages for years, sometimes even forcing them to migrate. The farmers of Kutch are now alleging corruption in the construction of the canal.
किसानों का जो 2 फसल हम ले सकते हैं इस साल, एक साल में, तो ये जो मन चाहे फसल ले सकते हैं। पहले खारा पानी था तो जो पानी के हिसाब से फसल ले रहे थे, अब तो हम जो जरूरत है, डिमांड है, वो फसल ले सकते हैं।
बहुत अच्छा किया प्रधान साहब ने, बहुत नर्मदा साहब ने बहुत अच्छा किया, सबके लिए अच्छा किया है और आगे भी अच्छा करे।
The Narmada mission is a dream project of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The breach in the canal has caused much embarrassment to the Gujarat government. With Gopi Manyar and Kaushik Kantecha, Bureau Report, India Today.
To the other big story of the day, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has been shot dead, assassinated while he was making a campaign speech in Nara for his party's candidate. Japan's longest serving Prime Minister since the Second World War was shot twice at close range. Sounds of gunshot rang in the air. Abe collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital, but he was declared dead a short while later. Remember, he's been a great friend of Prime Minister Modi and of India. What happened? Take a look.
Shinzo Abe, Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister, shot dead. Abe was barely a minute into his speech in support of his party candidate in Nara city when gunshots shattered the calm at 11:30 a.m. A plume of white smoke was seen behind him. Abe collapsed from the ground. The bullets hit him on his neck and chest. The profusely bleeding leader was airlifted to the hospital. Over 5 hours later, the doctors announced his death.
Former Prime Minister Abe, he has been transferred to hospital 12:20 on arrival. He has had no vital signs. And we conduct resuscitation measures. However, unfortunately, 5 p.m., he has passed away.
According to Japanese media, the attacker laid the gun on the ground after the shooting and made no attempt to flee the scene. He was tackled by Abe's security.
He was making his speech, and from behind, a man approached. After the first shot, he kind of went back, and with the second shot, Mr. Abe collapsed.
So this is near Yamato Saidaiji Station, north side, Nara Prefecture, and this is the site where Abe was shot. 2 gunshot-like sounds were heard, and then Abe collapsed onto the ground with bleeds.
The shooter is identified as Tetsuya Yamagami, a 41-year-old from the same city. Yamagami, a former member of the Maritime Self-Defense Force, is believed to have made the gun himself. The local media reports that Yamagami told investigators he shot Abe with the intention to kill. Following Abe's assassination, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has ordered security for election candidates and top leaders.
It is barbaric and malicious, and it cannot be tolerated. We will do everything we can. I would like to use the most extreme words available to condemn this act.
In Abe's death, India has lost a friend. Prime Minister Narendra Modi posted a series of tweets paying rich tributes to the departed leader. Prime Minister has announced a day national mourning on Saturday. Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me now, my first guest on this is Tobias Harris, Japanese politics analyst based in Washington, author of the iconoclast Shinzo Abe and the New Japan. Appreciate your joining us. Mr. Harris, what does Shinzo Abe mean for Japan? How big a blow is this for a country which has, in a way, been under the shadow of Mr. Abe for the last 2 decades?
I mean, it's a great question. It's one that I don't think we have an easy answer to. But I mean, it is really worth stressing that even though he had been a former prime minister for almost 2 years, he remained, I think, in my judgment, I think the most powerful politician in Japan still. And we saw really from the LDP's leadership election last year when Prime Minister Kishida won the leadership of the ruling party right up until the moment of his death. You know, he was the leader of the LDP's largest faction, the leader, basically the leading champion of the LDP's conservative bloc, and as we're seeing, a highly respected global statesman, and all of that gave him tremendous power to set the policy agenda and to really determine what the government should be talking about, what the government should be doing. And I think as we were heading into a major defense policy debate, he was going to play a big role in that. And so there's a huge vacuum, I think, in the heart of Japanese policymaking.
You know, the incident itself, there are serious question marks being raised over security lapses, the possibility that how did someone get so close to Mr. Abe? Are you surprised with that at all? Or has this, in a way, taken the world and indeed those who track Japan completely by shock? This is not a country where you would expect something like this to happen.
I mean, certainly violence like this. I mean, I think that is, for many people, not just in Japan and around the world, it was a bolt from the blue that I think was totally unexpected. That you just, Japan has not just low levels of crime and violence in its society, but also just political violence has not been an issue in Japan in any kind of serious way at the national level for a very long time. And so the idea that Abe should be targeted for assassination like this, and for not really clear why, not really understanding, what the motives were, if the assassin had a particular political agenda. It's very unclear and really makes it quite shocking. And it's really a blow when you think about how it took advantage of the fact that one of the strengths of Japanese democracy is the extent to which voters are able to access and to meet and to talk with and interact with their elected officials. And hopefully that won't change as a result of this, but you can you can feel the shock from that that you have a candidate, a prominent official out there speaking to the public, and you have an assassin take advantage of that.
Because coming from India, you would expect a complete security dragnet along a VVIP Neta when they are on the campaign trail. That didn't happen with Mr. Abe. But in conclusion, how would you sort of assess this extraordinary career of Shinzo Abe? Would you say he was unarguably Japan's greatest post-war politician?
There might be competition for greatest post-war politician, but I think in terms of his impact, I think he has taken Japan in a far different direction from where it was when he returned to the premiership in 2012. There really does seem to be no going back. Japan is respected in ways that it wasn't previously. It is expected to play roles globally and regionally that I don't think the world expected of Japan before. And it really is increasingly capable of stepping up to those expectations. Mm-hmm. And for that alone, I think he's really left his mark on Japan and really left the blueprint for his successors to follow in the 21st century.
Tobias Harris, author of a book on Shinzo Abe. Appreciate your joining me here tonight here on the news today. Those are the latest visuals, by the way, that we're getting. And just look at them again, because in a sense, they reveal the manner in which Mr. Abe was very vulnerable. Someone shoots him virtually from the back while he's addressing at a very short distance. Take a look at those images coming in, and that really suggests the complete absence of a strong security dragnet around the Prime Minister. Tragic scenes there in Japan today in Nara city. Now, there's another reason why Abe will be remembered. He's a great friend of Prime Minister Modi, a great friend of India, also close to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. In fact, during Abe's tenure over 2 terms, relationship with India was taken forward from the bullet train to mega infra push to defense. It was Abe and his friendship with first Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and then with Mr. Modi that has taken the relations between the 2 countries to the next level. India has declared a one-day mourning. Take a look at why Abe is so loved in a way by the Indian political leadership.
One of the most significant events on Indian calendar, and Shinzo Abe becomes the first Japanese Prime Minister to attend it as a chief guest. The visit clinched an ever closer relationship between Asia's second and third largest economies. More so at a time when tensions ran high between Japan and China with their territorial disputes in the East China Sea. And when Chinese incursions in Ladakh and Arunachal a year before had soured India-China ties. And these hugs cemented the friendship. A slew of agreements marked Abe's visit to India a year after the BJP took power at the centre, 16 of them ranging from infrastructure, defence, technology to peaceful use of nuclear energy. As a special gesture, India announced a visit on arrival scheme for all Japanese travellers. On track to realise Prime Minister Modi's vision of a new India, India's first high-speed rail project was founded during Abe's next visit 2 years later. Japan extended technical and financial assistance for running a bullet train between Ahmedabad and Mumbai. It was during Abe's term when India and Japan upgraded their relationship to a special strategic and global partnership. In a 2007 book, Abe envisioned Japan's ties with India would overtake its relations with the United States. The evolution of a broad-based partnership, a broader convergence of economic and strategic goals in geopolitics. Bureau Report, India Today.
So what did Shinzo Abe mean for India? Joining me now, Gautam Bambawale, former Indian ambassador who served in China, in Pakistan, in Bhutan, has tracked Japan closely. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Bambawale. Shinzo Abe, very special relationship with India, with Prime Minister Modi. How do you see it? Do you think he, in a sense, recrafted Indo-Japanese relations, which is why his passing away seems to have left this great vacuum and an enormous impact in a way on India too?
You are absolutely right, Rajdeep. Post 1998, when India tested its nuclear weapons, there was a very cold relationship and a cool relationship between Japan and India. But that changed when Shinzo Abe became Prime Minister for the first time in 2006, 2007. In fact, his visit to India in 2007 and his speech at the Parliament of India, which is titled The Confluence of the Two Seas, was so well received in India because it was the forerunner of what is now today called the Indo-Pacific. And in the Indo-Pacific, both Japan and India are very important players. And Shinzo Abe believed in strengthening the India-Japan relationship, which he consistently did, both as Prime Minister and even when he was not Prime Minister of Japan.
You know, you mentioned, Mr. Bambawale, Indo-Pacific. Many would say that Shinzo Abe was the one who wanted Japan to play a leadership role in the Indo-Pacific, a pacifist constitution post the Second World War. He tried to amend that, sought the militarization of Japan. As a result, seemed to find himself in some kind of conflict with the Chinese. Would you say that is correct, that he actually wanted to challenge Chinese supremacy in the Indo-Pacific?
Well, what I would say was that under Shinzo Abe, Japan did see that it needed to strengthen itself in order to stave off or keep off any threats to its own national security. And therefore, Shinzo Abe, as leader of Japan, as the Prime Minister of Japan, as the former Prime Minister of Japan, did work to strengthen Japan's own self-defense forces and its self-defense capability. And I think any leader of any country that becomes one of his major tasks. And therefore, we cannot hold that against Shinzo Abe. We must accept it and we must understand why it was necessary for Japan to...
In that sense, Mr. Bambawale, would his enduring legacy be his efforts to establish Quad, the alliance of Japan, India, US and Australia? Would you see that to be his more enduring legacy?
No, I think he leaves behind two important legacies. One is, of course, what is called Abenomics. The whole effort by Prime Minister or former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to revive Japan's economy, to ensure that it continues to grow at a fast speed. And he was pretty successful at that. On the other hand, there was also the other part of his legacy, which is to strengthen Japan's self-defense capability and also to work with other partners, including India, in ensuring self-defense. So I think both these aspects are very, very important as part of Shinzo Abe's legacy.
One final question. Let's return to the Indian equation. Do you believe that a post-Abe Japan has placed these relations, that the relations are now in such a strong place that even a post-Abe Japan will see a further deepening of ties between India and Japan? Would I be right in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that legacy endures. If you just look at India-Japan relations or Japan-India relations, I think all prime ministers following Shinzo Abe have continued to place emphasis on building a stronger relationship with India. And that is something which will continue irrespective of who's the leader of Japan or who is the leader of India.
Gautam Mambawale, for telling us why Shinzo Abe meant so much to New India in a way. I appreciate your joining me here on the news today. Thank you so much. Tragic loss of the former Japanese Prime Minister. Now, let's turn from there back to domestic politics, and our top political story of the day comes from Maharashtra, where after losing his Chief Minister's chair last week, now Uddhav Thackeray is facing another major battle. His party, the Shiv Sena, is slowly slipping out, it seems, of his control. Not only have the corporators from the two major municipal corporations near Mumbai ditched Uddhav Thackeray and joined hands with the new Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, but the buzz is that close to 10 of 18 MPs of the Shiv Sena are also in touch with the Shinde faction. Now, this could mean only one thing. Mr. Eknath Shinde could also easily stake claim over Shiv Sena as a party and possibly even gain control of the party symbol. That's going to be the next battle. What happened today? Take a look.
In what has come as a massive embarrassment to Shiv Sena Supremo Uddhav Thackeray, Sena loses control of yet another key municipal corporation. More than 55 corporators from the Kalyan Dombivli Municipal Corporation have joined the Shinde faction. Shiv Sena's Dombivli City President too joins Shinde.
तो आज तो एक तो हम लोग पहले शिवसेना में तो है ही, इसके आगे रहेंगे और अभी होने वाला टाइम उस टाइम में भी आगे सर के साथ में ही रहेंगे, शिवसेना में ही रहेंगे और अच्छे तरीके से उनके साथ में काम करेंगे.
The big blow comes just a day after Uddhav Thackeray effectively lost control over the second most important and prestigious Thane Municipal Corporation. Shinde, known as the Thane strongman, pulled close to 66 Shiv Sena corporators on his side with much ease. Eknath Shinde, the newly sworn-in Chief Minister of Maharashtra, flexed his muscles and flaunted group photos on Twitter of his growing support in the Shiv Sena. These photographs showed Shinde standing in the middle, flanked by an army of Shiv Sena members from civic bodies in Thane, Kalyan Dombivli and Navi Mumbai.
सर्व नगरसेवक आणि शिवसेनेचे पदाधिकारी, महिला आघाडीचे पदाधिकारी हे सर्व लोक आज माझ्या भूमिकेवर त्यांनी विश्वास दाखवलेला आहे आणि आज मी त्यांना मनापासून या ठिकाणी धन्यवाद देतो की आज मी बाळासाहेबांच्या हिंदुत्वाची भूमिका, आनंद दिघे साहेबांचे विचार घेऊन मी पुढे चाललो आहे.
Claiming he is the real Shiv Sena, Shinde in his boastful tweet mentioned how most of the former corporators as well as the Shiv Sena, Yuva Sena, Mahila Aghadi office bearers and Shiv Sainiks from 3 municipal corporations had met him and pledged allegiance. He elaborated on how they all have come together to endorse the ideology of pro-Hindu Shiv Sena chief Balasaheb Thackeray and Dharamveer Anand Dighe. The biggest challenge now for embattled Uddhav Thackeray will be to retain his party corporators at Mumbai's largest municipal corporation, the BMC.
की एवढे नगरसेवक गेले तेवढे नगरसेवक गेले मुळामध्ये आता सगळ्या महापालिका पालिका या आता अस्तित्वात नाहीयेत त्याच्यामुळे हे म्हटलं तर त्यांचे व्यक्तिगत कार्यकर्ते असू शकतात शिवसेना ही आहे ती आहेच की कोणी असं शिवसेना म्हणजे एखादी काही गोष्ट नाहीये की घेऊन पळत सुटला कोणी चोरून नेऊ शकेल अशी शिवसेना नाहीये.
As Maharashtra gears up for municipal corporations elections this year, the show of strength by Shinde faction has surely given the Shinde-Fadnavis alliance a big boost, much ahead of time. Bureau Report, India Today.
And Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, we are told, are now in Delhi. Tomorrow, they will be holding meetings with the Home Minister and the Prime Minister. Let's turn from there to our other talking point tonight, because a massive war has erupted over the production of the tricolour. That's right. As we here reach the occasion of the 75th Independence Day, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, as the Modi government likes to call it, the central government has gone ahead and amended the 2002 flag code earlier this week. Under the scheme, Ghar Ghar Tiranga, tricolours will now be allowed to be produced in polyester material, which earlier used to be in khadi only. The Congress has now launched a scathing attack on the central government, saying this is aimed to destroy the local khadi industry and will only encourage China, which remember is a leader in polyester, and that India will be importing Chinese flags on Independence Day. Listen in for a moment.
कानून में लिखा गया स्पष्ट रूप से कि खादी इस्तेमाल होगी झंडा बनाने में, और मोदी जी ने कहा है कि अब हम पॉलिएस्टर भी यूज कर सकते हैं। और पॉलिएस्टर के जो हैं बड़े बड़े लोग के नाम तो आप पहले से ही जानते हैं। और हम लोग को लगता है कि रोज सुबह जो है मोदी जी और अमित शाह जी जगते हैं, बोलते हैं कि आज देश का क्या बेचना है। शुरू करते हैं एयरपोर्ट से, फिर कभी जो है बंदरगाह से। मोदी जी और दोनों सुबह जगते हैं और अमित शाह जी शुरू करते हैं कि आज इसको बेच दो, इसको बेच दो। कभी ट्रेन लाइन बेच देते हैं, कभी रेलवे लाइन बेच देते हैं। अब जब जो है पूरे भारत की संपत्ति की कबर जब खाली हो रही, तो इनके ऊपर नजर झंडा पे पड़ गया। अब झंडा को भी जो बेचने की प्रक्रिया शुरू हो गई है। आप इंपोर्ट करोगे पॉलिएस्टर से, और कहां से आएगी पॉलिएस्टर? चीन से।
So let me raise that big question. Should the tricolor be only in khadi? Why is there a need for a polyester tricolor? Or is this much ado about nothing? Ahead of the 75th Independence Day, should we be amending the country's flag code in the way it has? Tuhin, the BJP spokesperson, is with us, and Tushar Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson, is with us. Let me come to you, Tushar, first. How do you see it first? Do you believe that the government has every right to amend the flag code to allow the flag to be made in polyester so that many more people can actually put up the flag outside their house in the lead up to August 15? Polyester is cheaper than khadi.
See, if it was just a matter of giving the access to the flag to many more people, there was another way to do it also. The government could reinstate the subsidy on khadi, subsidize hand-produced, hand-woven, hand-spun the cottage industry, and ensure that the flag was sold at a very subsidized price, and it could have served their purpose, and it could have retained the khadi industry and kept it thriving, at least in the production of the tricolor. This is not about making the tricolor cheap. This is about the bigger agenda of rewriting history. And this is also a part of trying to sabotage the history of the freedom movement, the Satyagraha movement. And khadi is very closely associated with that. And so, remove as many symbols of khadi and its existence as possible so that the new history can be sold off in a much easier way. This is the agenda behind it. It's not making the flag more accessible to homes. It is about brainwashing minds.
You're telling me that you believe that allowing khadi to be made of polyester, allowing the flag to be made of polyester, not of khadi, is part of rewriting the politics of the pre-independence movement?
These people work on a very grand scale on everything, and they do it in a very systematic manner. And this is one more step in rewriting or erasing the uncomfortable history where they don't feature at all.
You want to respond to that, Tuhin Sinha? Here is Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson, and there are others too, khadi activists, who are saying this will be the last nail in the coffin of handmade products and household industry. There is a reason why khadi was mandated for the national flag. The national flag is a symbol of our freedom and sovereignty. The khadi symbolizes that. Symbolizes the freedom struggle. You want to respond?
Rajdeep, if these allegations were made by Rahul Gandhi, I could, pretty much understand his limitations of understanding issues. But I'm very surprised that of all people, Mr. Tushar Gandhi is making these allegations. You need to understand that in the Congress era, beyond a superficial espousal, the Gandhi symbolisms, be it Swachh Bharat or be it espousal of khadi, they couldn't transcend a rather superficial espousal. In the last 8 years, the khadi industry has grown by nearly 200%. In the financial year 2021-22 itself, the total turnover of KVIC was 1,15,000 crores. which is the highest for any FMCG industry, any FMCG company in the country. So are we trying to kill khadi? What are these allegations? Number two, the only reason why the flag code has been amended to include polyester, silk and a couple of other cloth material also is to ensure that every Har Ghar Tiranga campaign would probably ensure that every house would have a Tiranga in the next few weeks. Wouldn't it be a beautiful sight if your house, if Mr. Gandhi's house, my house would have a Tiranga flying 24/7? That would, in all likelihood, mean that some 20 crore new flags would be procured. We are only making the procurement easy for everybody in the country.
So you're saying it would be more accessible? So you dismiss the charge that the procurement will take place from China because there are Karnataka Khadi Gram Udyog Sangha, which runs the sole approved flag making unit, which says it is not just a flag that will be affected but the whole of the Khadi sector. So it's not just Tushar Gandhi, it's those who work in the Khadi sector who are worried that you will now import polyester flags from China and then parade it Har Ghar Tiranga.
No, it's very simple. If you do the mathematics, the exponential increase in the demand for these flags would not impact the existing setup at all. That is what they need to realize. And that is why I'm very surprised. If these allegations were made by the Congress party, I could pretty much understand their desperation. But the exponential increase in the number of flags that would be procured over the next few weeks and possibly, for the entire year, starting 15th August this year, would make it necessary for us to make alternative avenues of procurement available to the common man. Why should the common man's need to have a flag be dependent upon the availability of a flag in a certain cloth material? It should be the emotion which matters over here, and that is what we are concerned about.
Okay, that's a good point. The emotions matter more than the fabric of the flag, Mr. Tushar Gandhi. So what if it is polyester? As long as millions of more Indians are able to parade the flag in the lead up to August 15, that should be enough. Are you seeing conspiracy theories where none exist?
I have been buying flags on Independence Day and Republic Day from my childhood, from traffic signals made of paper, made of plastic. If I want to fly a flag, if I have the emotion to fly a flag, I am not hampered by its inavailability. So we don't make puerile excuses. I know it is your political necessity, but don't make puerile excuses like this. The flag is accessible to those who want it sincere.
No, but the question is, the question, Mr. Gandhi, is the emotions matter more than the fabric.
Emotion is attached with the fabric because the fabric is identified with our freedom movement. It has always been known as the fabric of our freedom. If you want to negate it, fine. You have a brute majority. You can do whatever you like. As it is, there are dictatorial things happening in this country. It can keep happening. We are in a minority. We can't say anything. And Janta's voice doesn't matter to Delhi at all. But okay, let a Chinese-made flag fly over Red Fort on 15th August and show your patriotism.
Let a Chinese-made flag fly over the Red Fort. Tuhin Sinha, in conclusion, there's a sense that these decisions are not taken without some kind of consensus being built. They're taken without really involving perhaps people who are in the field, who are Khadi activists, because they are the ones, not just Tushar Gandhi here. Khadi activists have come out strongly and said this is not what they would like to see.
Rajdeep, if you look at, let me address the core issues over here. If you go to a school today, even today's, if you ask 14 and 15-year-olds whether they know what each of the color in the national flag stands for, a lot of them would probably not know. If you ask them who designed the national flag, they would not know. We are trying to address that by mass espousal. And I am simply trying to explain to you the mathematics. The procurement of that many more flags would make it more easily accessible. Again, in as much as I don't want to use that word, the puerile accusations being made by Mr. Tushar Gandhi, does he follow the statistics and the data of the Khadi industry in the last 7 years, how it has grown? Would it grow without the support and without the direct
We know what you do with statistics, sir.
provided by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We are extremely passionate about...
Let him complete. Yeah, go ahead, Tuhin.
We are extremely passionate about the espousal of khadi, and I've given you the figures. 176% increase in the production of khadi in the last 8 years, 248% increase in gross sales. And these are not figures that are fetched. He can go to the KYC and find out the balance sheets himself. So how is the espousal of khadi increasing when we are anti-khadi?
Therefore,
these allegations...
Okay, let me give a final word to you, Mr. Gandhi, because in a sense, yes, I've gone through those figures that Tuhin has put out, and those are in the public domain. It's not as if, in that sense, khadi has taken the backseat in terms of production. It has actually, the KVIC profits have increased. Given that, why allege conspiracies? What makes you so convinced that this is part of some giant conspiracy?
Because there is a giant conspiracy and nobody can deny it. There is well-oiled machinery that is trying to rewrite history. And all these are steps in that direction. Please, I may be puerile, I may be brainwashed, I don't mind, but I know one thing, I know the truth and I can identify the truth. And 15 years down the line, just to answer the question that the students who don't know the meaning of the colors and the designer of the flags, what they are doing now is 15 years down the line, children will say, yes, the Indian tricolor is made in China.
Okay, that's the third time you said that the Indian tricolor will be made in China. We'll wait and see whether those polyester flags come in from China or whether they are actually homemade. Either way...
Can I have one question to him?
Yes, very quickly, Mr. Sinha.
I would have really appreciated these allegations by Mr. Gandhi if he had once questioned the Congress government before 2014 why only 39% sanitation cover was provided in the country when Gandhiji was most passionate about Swachh Bharat. I would have appreciated these allegations if he had, questioned the previous Congress government why border roads were not built over a period of time. Do you have? I don't have the data now, but again, if you go at the border roads,
we are now moving into we are now changing the goalposts. We focused on the flag. Let's leave it at that. We will test it in the next month. We'll see where the flags come from, whether they're homemade or made in China. Thanks both Tuhin Sinha, Tushar Gandhi for joining me here on the news today. Let's turn to the story that's breaking this evening. Rishi Sunak has announced his candidature for the United Kingdom Prime Ministership. That's the former Chancellor of the Exchequer in Britain, a day after Boris Johnson stepped down there. Mr. Sunak has posted a video on Twitter where he says that let's restore trust, rebuild the economy and reunite the country. Earlier, Mr. Sunak had resigned from the Boris Johnson cabinet. So that's the big other story that's coming in. Let's restore trust, rebuild the economy is the message of Rishi Sunak. Joining me now is Lavina Tandon for a quick update. Lavina, we were on the channel exactly a day ago where you seemed to suggest that Mr. Sunak may not be the front runner, but he's clearly pitched his tent and said, look, I'm ready to fight.
He's definitely the front runner, but I'm not still sure. I would say, Rajdeep, that he will win the race is what I meant. So he, at the moment, also is front runner in terms of the bookies. Ben Wallace, who has stood up, and many other have put in their names and nominations, and one of them being Ben Wallace. So if we look at the bookies market, Rishi Sunak and Ben Wallace are going neck to neck.
Okay.
So Rishi's name is quite there, but I just feel that it's always happens in British politics. It's always something we don't expect. And someone we don't know very well would come forth, and it's happened before. But having said that, I must say that what Rishi did and the timing of his resignation was crucial. Just few days before this entire saga broke, he actually was in conversation with us lot, the Indian journalist, in a Zoom conversation. And he, for the first time, mentioned about his background. Probably he was laying the ground. I don't know if he knew at that point in time, but it's quite interesting that what constantly keeps coming against Rishi for the top post and from everybody, especially the British people, is that he doesn't know what it is like to be a common man. And that's the image he portrayed in that conversation he had with all of us, where he said that where his background is from. So Rishi is definitely a front runner. It'll be ecstatic if he wins, but he will be given a tough fight, Rajdeep.
Okay, we'll wait and see whether there are other contenders who also, of course, throw their hat in the ring. Almost certainly there will be many more. The Tory party likely to go through some bloodletting in the days ahead. Thanks very much there, Lavina Tandon, joining me from London. So we've travelled across the world on the show tonight. Let's take a break, because on the other side is our Good News Today story. You're watching the News Today. News without the noise.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com or call 9999892171.
You are watching India Today.
Let's turn to tonight's Get Real India story. In another setback, some would say, to the Aam Aadmi, hospital treatments are likely to get costlier. Because remember, earlier this week, the GST Council announced a 5% tax on hospital beds that could lead them to cost at least 5,000 rupees more. The decision is set to come into effect soon, and therefore we thought we'd go and find out what's the ground reality. Get Real India.
Get ready to shell out more for hospital treatment from July 18th. That is when the GST Council's decision to levy 5% tax on hospital beds that cost 5,000 or more will come into effect. This means beds that cost 5,000 rupees a day in rent will now be charged at 5,250 rupees. The decision to levy GST on hospital beds has drawn criticism. The Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry has written to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman seeking zero GST for healthcare services.
We need to understand that providing a room for a patient service is also part of healthcare service. So it is not different. So what the hospitals will be forced to do will be to transfer this increased 5% GST on the room rent to the patient, which unnecessarily will increase cost for the patient.
Hospital managements are warning of a domino effect in the days to come.
सबको पता है कि इंडिया में 62% लोग हैं आउट ऑफ पॉकेट एक्सपेंस करते हैं अपने इलाज के लिए, तो कहीं ना कहीं डायरेक्ट जो इसका बर्डन पड़ेगा वो मरीजों पर पड़ेगा, स्पेशली मिडिल क्लास पे। इवन जो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी है इंडिया में कोविड के दौरान और कोविड के बाद या कोविड से पहले भी लगभग मैक्सिमम इंश्योरेंस कंपनी वो लॉस में चल रही थी, तो कहीं ना कहीं इंश्योरेंस कंपनी पे दबाव पड़ेगा। जो हॉस्पिटल्स हैं उनके लिए कॉम्प्लायंसेस बढ़ जाएंगे और कॉम्प्लायंसेस बढ़ने से उनका कॉम्प्लायंसेस करने में पूरा खर्चा बढ़ जाएगा, तो ये भी कहीं ना कहीं ठीक नहीं है।
The government, however, is not impressed by the arguments made by the healthcare industry.
I don't know whether there would be hospitals in smaller towns like Panipat, Karnal or Meerut where a hospital room would be costing 5,000 rupees or more. So if I can spend 5,000 rupees on a room, I can perhaps spend 250 rupees on a GST, and especially I can assure you that this GST which comes into a common pool will be used to also, not for everything, to also for the poor.
The government and the industry bodies are at loggerheads. They have claims and counterclaims.
the amount, 250 rupees, is minuscule at the moment. But the Aam Aadmi will have to shell out more if a person is hospitalized for many days in one go. With camera person Sachin Chandok, this is Aishwarya Paliwal reporting for India Today.
Just about enough time to leave you with our good news today's story, and it comes from Uttar Pradesh's Meerut, where an income tax officer, Jeevan Singh Bisht, is fond of coin collection to the extent that he has stocked up coins that date back to the British era. Tonight, I leave you with this good news story. You stock up your coins. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Enjoy the story. Bye for now. Have a good weekend.
As an income tax officer, Jeevan Singh Bisht chased people who hoarded money. Out of office, he pursues a hobby, hoarding money literally. Bisht is fond of collecting coins. He has stocked up coins that date back to the British era. The first floor of his house is entirely taken up by his coin collection.
मेरे पास 1804 से लेकर के 1947 तक के 350 सिक्के हैं, एंटीक, बहुत पुराने हैं। 1950 से लेकर के आज के दिन तक के हर तरह के, हर ब्रांड के सिक्के मेरे पास मौजूद हैं, जिनकी संख्या औसतन 50 किलो से कम नहीं होगा।
Jeevan Bisht says there is an emotional story behind his coin collection.
तो ये आपका एक इमोशनल कनेक्शन था पिताजी के साथ कि आप देख के पता कि जो पिताजी ने किया वही हम भी करते हैं?
हाँ बिल्कुल, मैंने कोशिश किया कि उनकी रखी हुई चीज़ को मैंने आदर से वो रखा और बल्कि उनको आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश किया और मैंने फिर तब से मैंने इनको सिक्कों को इकट्ठा करना शुरू कर किया मैंने।
Besides antique coins, he also has more than 13,000 stamps and 900 different types of pen. But Bisht is in the record books for another reason. He entered the Limca book after writing an ode to his wife, a love letter that weighed 8 kilograms. The letter, one could say, is worth its weight in gold. Bureau Report, India Today.
Shine bright like a diamond.
You are watching
So a new study in India says that couples who have more sex will have a harder time in getting pregnant. Why is it? Well, this is because more sex can impact the male sperm count. A study by the researchers of Kasturba Medical College, MAHE Manipal and the University of Münster, Germany looks at the relation between the length of abstinence and its impact on the male sperm fertility.
Semen quality plays a very important role in establishing pregnancy.